Good day, everyone. Today is Christmas Day. So, Merry Christmas to all of you. I will not be reading the Gospel for the day because there is more than one Gospel for this feast day. As a matter of fact, it depends on when you attended Mass. So, if you attended the Vigil Mass last night with the hordes and hordes of other people, then you got to hear the beginning of Matthew's Gospel. And if you went to the traditional midnight Mass, then you got to hear the first bit of Luke chapter 2. And if you went to Mass at dawn, then you got to hear the next bit of Luke chapter 2. And if you went to Mass during the day, then you got to hear the beginning of John's Gospel. Now, I went to Mass during the day, so I should have heard John's Gospel, but instead I got to hear the beginning of Luke chapter 2 because the priest that was celebrating decided that Luke chapter 2, the midnight Mass reading, was more in line with the message he was giving us. And of course I had no problem with that. These are all Christmas readings, and so any one of them, or better yet all of them, are very much relevant to what this day is all about. Because today is what it all comes down to. Because everything from the lineage of that Jesus came from by way of Joseph, to the fact that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary, and the fact that Jesus, the light of the world, was born at night. It's very symbolic because he was the light of the world and he came to us in a time of darkness, which is when we needed him. Because if he came during the daytime, it would not be quite as effective of a message, or the symbolism would not mean a whole lot, because most of us do not turn on lights during the day unless we're living in Scandinavia and we suffer from seasonal affective disorder, which is sad. But anyway, it all comes down to this, and pretty much we made off pretty well on this deal, because he made a deal with us. And what we did was we offered him our humanity, and he gave us in return, he gave us his divinity. So we made off pretty well in this deal. But of course, the important thing, though, is that we have to be willing to actually make a deal like this. Because it does not mean anything if Jesus comes to save us from our sin, if we don't want to be saved from our sin, if we don't want to let him save us from our sin, then it does no good if he comes here to save us from our sin. And it does no good for him to seek a place in our hearts if we don't leave a space for him in our hearts. Basically, if you think of our hearts as the inn where they need room, where he needs room, and we don't leave any room at the inn, then it does no good if he's seeking a place, or if he's seeking a room at the inn and we don't leave a room open for him. So basically, if we choose to overbook, if we choose to do what airlines do to cover costs of no-shows, or do what many of us do in our social calendars to avoid having an empty night in case things fall through, if we take that approach of overbooking, then there will be no place in our hearts for him. And ultimately, overbooking is something that's done out of greed. So it runs very counter to leaving a place open, being generous, and leaving a place open for him in our hearts. And the thing is, if you think about it, we're not really sacrificing much. All we're doing, we're giving him our humanity. He's giving us divinity. He's giving us a lot more in return than we would ever be giving him. We just have to be willing to give him that time of day. We have to be willing to give him that room. We have to avoid being greedy and feeling the need to fill all the seats in an airplane or to fill our social calendar on a certain night at all costs. We have to step back from that mentality and be generous enough to leave a room open, because that is just for someone special to come and give us in return a lot more than we ever would have given him. But we have to be willing to give that to him. So it all comes down to this. It all comes down to Christmas, everything that led to it through all the ages and everything like that. And this, of course, is the reason for the season. It's not about your birthday and you get gifts for your birthday and stuff. It's not your birthday unless you happen to be born on this day as well. Then more power to you. But otherwise, it's really a time to be unselfish. It's not a time to rest on your laurels and celebrate yourself and give yourself gifts or ask for gifts from other people, as much as it is a time to open your hearts to letting someone else come in, basically leaving room at the inn for Jesus to come, and then he'll give you, and he'll compensate you generously, like more generously than you can imagine. So I wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a blessed Christmas season, because this is only the beginning of Christmas. It's not the end of Christmas. It really is just the beginning. So next 2 weeks, I hope you all have a blessed season of Christmas, and peace out. All right, later.